Have you ever contemplated what occurs to your soul at that precise moment of death? Do you feel that overwhelming anxiety in your chest when pondering eternity? Maybe you've experienced the loss of a loved one and find yourself troubled by unanswerable questions. Where is their soul now? Are they in pain? Are they at rest? Is there any way I can still assist them? Subscribe to our channel so you can catch more teachings and spiritual insight from Saint Faustina. This evening I wish to share with you one of the most profound and life-altering revelations that heaven has ever bestowed upon humanity. Saint Faustina Kowalska, the Secretary of Divine Mercy, received detailed visions from Christ himself regarding what transpires with souls after death. These are not mere human opinions or theological speculations, they are direct revelations from Jesus, recorded in her official diary verified by the Church and acknowledged as genuine mystical experiences. What you are about to learn will change your perspective on death, how you approach each day, and how you prepare for eternity. Saint Faustina didn't only witness the destinations of souls, she observed the moment of judgment. She engaged in conversations with souls in purgatory. She beheld the magnificence of heaven. And indeed, she even ventured into the depths of hell guided by an angel. Can you fathom the profound effect these visions had on her heart? How would you feel if Christ himself revealed to you the eternal fate awaiting every human soul? Close your eyes for just a moment and envision this scene alongside me. You are lying on your deathbed, and all of a sudden you sense your soul separating from your body. What do you think occurs in that very moment? Is there darkness? Is there light? Is there fear? Or is there tranquility? Saint Faustina had the extraordinary privilege of receiving revelations about this pivotal moment, and what Christ shared with her will leave you in awe. In her diary, Saint Faustina wrote that Jesus disclosed to her that at the point of death, every soul undergoes immediate judgment, not a delayed judgment awaiting the end of times, but an instant confrontation with Christ the Judge. Can you visualize that moment, your entire life flashing before the eyes of Jesus? Every thought, every word, every deed weighed in the scales of divine justice and mercy. Saint Faustina observed how some souls faced this moment with assurance, while others quaked with fear. What accounts for the difference? What influences whether a soul approaches this encounter with serenity or with torment? Christ conveyed to Saint Faustina a truth that challenges us all to reflect deeply. The soul that places its trust in my mercy is the most joyful. These are not merely beautiful words. They hold the key to comprehending how divine judgment operates. When a soul has lived fully trusting in the mercy of Jesus, nurturing that trust through prayer, sacraments, and acts of love, death transforms from an adversary into an entryway to glory. But when a soul has existed in pride or sin, rejecting grace and mercy, that very moment marks the start of eternal suffering. Have you ever pondered which category your soul might belong to if death were to surprise you today? The most striking takeaway that Saint Faustina discovered is that God does not condemn souls. Rather, souls condemn themselves. In her vision of hell, she recognized that the majority of souls there are those who did not believe in the existence of hell. Do you grasp the awful irony? The very act of denying eternal truth is what leads one to endure it in the most agonizing manner. Christ doesn't force anyone into hell. Hell is the ultimate choice made by souls who favor their pride over his mercy. But behold, here lies the hope that ought to fill your heart. Until the very last moment, until that final breath, God's mercy remains accessible. The crucial question is, are you ready to place your trust in that mercy, or will your pride hold you back from the embrace that could redeem your soul? What imagery comes to your mind when you envision Jesus as judge? Perhaps a stern figure, inflexible, and poised to condemn. Saint Faustina uncovered an entirely different understanding, one that forever changed her perspective on divine justice. Through her mystical encounters with Christ, she realized that the one who will judge us is the very same who sacrificed himself for us on the cross. Can you appreciate the profound weight of this reality? Jesus disclosed to Saint Faustina that his mercy surpasses all human suffering. He spoke to her directly. My mercy is greater than your wretchedness, and that of the entire world. Who has gauged my goodness? For your sake I came down from heaven to earth. For your sake I allowed myself to be nailed to the cross. For your sake I permitted my sacred heart to be pierced with a lance, and opened for you a fountain of mercy. These are not the words of a harsh judge, but of a lover who sacrificed everything for the salvation of souls. When these words resonate within you, what emotions stir in your heart? Can you feel the boundless love that beats within each word? However, here's what Saint Faustina discovered that should both comfort and challenge you. God's mercy, while limitless, does require a response from each human soul. It's not an automatic salvation that disregards our freedom. Christ revealed to her, I cannot assist a soul that does not place its trust in me and does not make use of my graces. Do you grasp the beautiful yet daunting responsibility we hold? God offers mercy, but we must open our hearts to accept it. We must elect to trust rather than doubt, to humble ourselves instead of clinging to pride, to confess instead of concealing our sins. Saint Faustina also received the insight that some souls, even when presented with divine mercy, choose to reject it. In one of her visions, she witnessed how certain souls, even at the brink of death, turned away from the light of Christ, preferring the darkness of separation from God. This wasn't due to God abandoning them, but because they favored their sins over His grace. Have you ever wondered why anyone would make such a choice? It's because pride can become so entrenched in the human heart that a soul would rather uphold its rebellion than be saved by grace. This should prompt us to reflect on our own hearts. Are there aspects of our lives where pride hinders our complete surrender to God's mercy? Now comes the time to confront the stark truth regarding eternal destiny. Saint Faustina, through her mystical visions, was granted insight into 3 possible destinations for every human soul after death, not merely as abstract theological ideas but as real places she visited, where she conversed with souls and observed their conditions. Are you ready to hear what she uncovered? Are you prepared to grasp where your own soul might be headed? The first destination Saint Faustina was shown was heaven. In her diary, she describes it as a joy so profound that it defies description. However, it wasn't solely the absence of suffering that touched her, it was the overwhelming presence of love. She observed that souls in heaven do not only bask in their own happiness, they also rejoice in the happiness of others. It represents a communion of love so flawless that each soul's joy amplifies the joy of all. When you think about heaven, is this what you envision? A realm where love is so all-encompassing that there's no space for envy, competition, or sorrow. Saint Faustina recognized that the souls there shared one common bond. They had put their complete trust in God's mercy during their time on earth. The second destination is Purgatory, and here Saint Faustina received insights that ought to touch every Catholic heart. She was led by her guardian angel to a shadowy area filled with fire, where countless suffering souls resided. These souls fervently pray, yet ineffectively for themselves. Only we can assist them. Can you imagine the torment of these souls? They are saved indeed, but they must undergo purification before they can enter heaven. Saint Faustina learned that these souls endure silently, yet with profound hope, knowing that their suffering will ultimately come to an end, leading them to eternal glory. What she uncovered that should motivate you is that our prayers on earth can offer them immense relief and even freedom. If you feel compelled by these revelations and wish to aid souls in purgatory, comment with "I pray for the souls in purgatory," and subscribe to the channel by clicking the bell so you can receive more spiritual insights that could transform your eternity. The third destination was hell, and here Saint Faustina was granted one of the most powerful visions recorded in Christian mysticism. Guided by an angel, she descended into the depths of hell. It is a realm of immense torment. How extraordinarily vast it is. But what astonished her most wasn't just the physical anguish, but the spiritual reality. She noted one significant fact, that most of the souls there are those who never believed that hell was real. The tragic irony should send chills down our spines. Souls find themselves in hell in part because they chose not to acknowledge its existence. They lived under the illusion that their choices bore no eternal consequences. Now they face those consequences for all eternity. Yet, even within this harrowing vision, Saint Faustina learned something that should instill hope and urgency in us. Hell is not God's desire for any soul. Jesus communicated to her, "I send you to all humanity with my mercy. I do not wish to punish the sorrowful human race. Rather, I aim to heal it and embrace it to my merciful heart." This signifies that every soul you come across, every individual you meet, and every sinner you observe still possesses the chance for salvation. The question that should ignite a fire in your heart is, what steps am I taking to assist souls in evading this everlasting tragedy? How am I living and sharing the mercy that could deliver them? Have you ever attempted to picture what it would be like to stand before God face to face? Saint Faustina was granted glimpses of celestial glory that so deeply changed her that she could hardly return to earthly matters. What she witnessed should spark within you a fervent desire to live each moment of your life aimed toward that eternal purpose. Are you prepared to grasp what awaits souls who place their complete trust in divine mercy through her mystical experiences? Saint Faustina illustrated heaven not as a domain of golden pavements or valuable gems, but as a realm of perfect love. She expressed, "What I felt and observed I cannot put into words. But I understand that all the descriptions I might offer would merely be a faint reflection of what I truly experienced. The splendor of heaven is not solely about the absence of pain, it's about the overwhelming presence of God. Picture your heart overflowing with love, leaving no space for sorrow, fear, or desire. Imagine knowing with absolute certainty that you are entirely loved, entirely accepted, completely at home." This is what Saint Faustina perceived, and it left her with such yearning that earthly existence appeared as nothing but a shadow. What particularly touched Saint Faustina was discovering that in heaven, souls don't just cherish their own bliss, they find joy in the happiness of others. There's no jealousy, no rivalry, nor the sensation that someone else's joy takes away from your own. Instead, love is so flawless that each soul's happiness amplifies the happiness of all. Can you visualize such a place? A realm where your greatest delight springs not from what you gain, but from the love you can share and the love you witness others receiving. This is the communion of saints at its fullest manifestation. And Saint Faustina realized that souls prepare for this truth by learning to love selflessly while on earth. But here's a thought that should both ease and challenge you. Street Fina discovered that the souls in heaven shared one common thread. During their earthly lives they completely trusted in God's mercy. They weren't necessarily the most overtly religious or the most materially successful. They were individuals who, when confronted with their own sins and frailties, placed themselves wholeheartedly into the embrace of divine mercy. They lived the prayer that Street Fina became renowned for: Jesus, I trust in you. This trust wasn't merely an intellectual concept, but a reality intertwined with every choice, every reaction to suffering, every second of their being. The most beautiful insight Street Fina gained about heaven is that it begins right here on earth for those who dwell in harmony with God. She encountered moments of such deep connection with Christ that she felt she was already experiencing eternal life. This should inspire immense hope within you. You don't have to wait until death to start savoring the joy of heaven. Each time you place your trust in God's mercy, each time you opt for love over selfishness, each time you yield your will to His, you are already participating in the essence of heaven. The question that should ignite your heart is, am I living in a manner that gets me ready for this eternal splendor? Am I nurturing the trust and love that will enable me to enter this perfect communion? What if I told you that right at this moment there are souls who passed away in God's grace but are undergoing intense suffering because they still require purification before they can enter heaven? Street Fina was granted remarkable insights into the state of these souls, and what she discovered should prompt every Christian heart to take immediate action. Are you ready to comprehend the truth of purgatory through the perspective of someone who actually visited it? Street Fina's first encounter with souls in purgatory occurred through a vision where her guardian angel led her to a foggy area filled with flames and within it countless suffering souls. But what struck her initially wasn't just their pain, it was their hope. These souls, she realized, were confident of their salvation, but needed to be purified before they could enter the perfect embrace of heaven. Can you envision that blend of suffering and hope? They understand they will see God, but first they must be cleansed of every sin, attachment, and every flaw that would hinder them from fully receiving divine love. What Street Fina found out, which should profoundly touch your heart, is that these souls fervently pray, but do so without effectiveness for their own sake. We are the only ones who can assist them. Do you comprehend the deep responsibility this places on every living Catholic? These souls, unable to earn merit for themselves, rely entirely on our prayers, sacrifices and masses offered in their name for comfort. Street Fina discovered that just one mass offered for a soul in purgatory could provide more relief than years of their own torment. When you go to Mass, do you remember to dedicate it to these overlooked souls? When you pray the Rosary, do you think of those souls who yearn for your intercession? One of the most touching insights Street Fina received was witnessing how souls in purgatory endure two kinds of pain: the anguish of separation from the divine vision, and the pain of sense, the purging fire that cleanses their attachments. However, what she learned that should bring you comfort and motivation is that these souls endure their suffering with perfect acceptance because they recognize the justice and love behind their purification. They wouldn't desire to enter heaven unrefined because they realize that any lingering selfishness or attachment would hinder them from fully experiencing the perfect love that awaits them. But here's something that should fill you with both urgency and hope. Street Fina learned that the prayers and sacrifices made by the living can significantly reduce the time souls spend in purgatory. She was shown how a simple prayer, a small act of sacrifice, or even the offering of daily struggles, can provide tremendous relief to these souls. More powerfully, she discovered that the souls released from purgatory due to our prayers become our most grateful advocates in heaven. Have you ever considered how many souls might be praying for you right now because someone, perhaps generations ago, prayed for their liberation? This is the beautiful enigma of the communion of saints and Street Fina lived it as a vivid reality that could alter our perspective on death and prayer. Are you ready to confront one of the most challenging truths Street Fina was shown? In her mystical experiences, she had a horrifying vision of hell so dreadful that she remarked, "What I witnessed was so terrifying that I would have perished from fear had I not been upheld by the strength of God." But why did Christ reveal this dreadful truth to her? Because, as she came to understand, love sometimes must warn against dire consequences. If you genuinely love someone, don't you caution them when they're approaching a cliff? Street Fina described being guided by an angel into the depths of hell. It is a realm of immense torment. How extraordinarily vast it is. However, what impacted her most intensely wasn't the physical descriptions of fire and pain. It was the spiritual reality of complete separation from God. She observed souls who had ultimately and definitively rejected God's mercy. These were not just souls who committed a single grave sin, but individuals who lived and died in a perpetual state of rebellion against love itself. Can you fathom the sorrow of a soul that prefers its own will over God's love, even when that choice leads to everlasting despair? The revelation that should rattle every soul to its core is what Christ told Street Fina about why souls are condemned to hell. I noticed one thing: most of the souls there are those who did not believe that hell existed. Do you perceive the dreadful irony? The very denial of eternal consequences is part of what results in experiencing them. These souls lived as if their choices bore no eternal significance, as if sin had no lasting impact, as if God's warnings were mere empty threats. They died as they lived, dismissing spiritual truth. Are you taking spirituality seriously? Are you leading your life as if your choices have eternal repercussions? Yet even amidst this horrifying vision, Saint Faustina learned lessons that should inspire both urgency and hope. Hell is not God's intention for any soul. Before showing her hell, Christ communicated, "I send you to all humanity with my mercy. I do not wish to punish suffering humanity, but I desire to heal it, to embrace it within my compassionate heart." This indicates that every individual you encounter today still has a chance for salvation. Every person who appears lost in sin still has access to the mercy that could redeem them. The souls Saint Faustina witnessed in hell were present, not because God forsook them, but because they ultimately decided to forsake God. This should ignite in your heart both a holy reverence for your own soul and a fervent desire to assist others in avoiding this eternal calamity. What should deeply touch your heart is that Saint Faustina was shown hell not to induce fear but to inspire action. Christ desires for souls to grasp the harsh truth of eternal loss, so they may opt for eternal gain. He wishes for us to recognize the repercussions of spurning mercy so that we will wholeheartedly accept it. Each time you face temptation to sin, remember what Saint Faustina experienced. Whenever you come across someone entrenched in serious sin, recall that they are heading toward the chasm she foresaw. The burning question in your heart should be, what am I doing to assist souls in escaping this fate? How am I embodying and sharing the mercy that could save them from eternal loss? Have you ever pondered whether your prayers truly impact eternity? Saint Faustina uncovered a truth that should transform how you perceive each rosary you pray, every mass you attend, and each small sacrifice you make. She recognized that our prayers on this earth have the ability to significantly change the eternal fate and well-being of souls. Are you prepared to grasp the extraordinary spiritual power that lies within your hands? Through her mystical experiences, Saint Faustina discovered that prayer builds a bridge connecting earth to eternity. When she prayed for souls in purgatory, she could visibly witness the comfort her prayers granted them. Christ demonstrated to her how a single mass offered for a suffering soul could bring greater solace than countless years of personal purification. Just think of the joy a soul in purgatory feels when suddenly they experience the soothing effects of your prayer amidst their purifying flames. Saint Faustina saw that these souls unable to aid themselves completely rely on our intercession. When you pray for the deceased, you're not merely uttering kind words, you're actively taking part in their liberation. Yet Saint Faustina's insights on prayer delve even deeper. Christ revealed to her that prayers offered for sinners can actually avert souls from descending into hell. She learned that her own sufferings and prayers played a crucial role in the conversion of many souls who would have otherwise been lost forever. Can you fathom the weight of this reality? Your prayers today might just be the grace that softens a hardened heart tomorrow. Your sacrifice this morning could be the mercy that rescues a soul from eternal damnation this evening. Jesus told Saint Faustina, "By your prayers and sacrifices you save more souls than a missionary does through teaching and preaching." What should strike you with both awe and responsibility is Saint Faustina's revelation that the souls we guide through our prayers become our most powerful advocates in heaven. She came to learn that souls liberated from purgatory through our prayers never forget their benefactors. They spend eternity imploring God for those who assisted them during their time of need. This establishes a beautiful cycle. Your prayers enable souls to ascend to heaven, and in return they pray for your salvation and growth in holiness. Can you comprehend how the communion of saints comes alive when you truly embrace your role as an intercessor? The most practical insight Saint Faustina gained about prayer was the immense power of the chaplet of divine mercy for souls on their deathbed. Christ assured her that when this chaplet is recited in the presence of the dying, he stands between his Father and that dying individual, not as the righteous judge, but as the compassionate Savior. Contemplate the incredible promise embedded in these words. Every time you pray the chaplet for someone nearing death, you are summoning Christ's mercy at the most pivotal moment of their life. Have you ever thought about keeping a list of those who are seriously ill or elderly, and regularly praying the chaplet for their eternal salvation? This could be the most significant work you undertake, aiding souls as they safely transition into eternity through the strength of prayer. What if I told you that each time you go to the sacrament of confession, or partake in Holy Communion, you are directly influencing your eternal fate? Saint Faustina received insights about the sacraments that should reshape your perception of every visit to the confessional and every communion. These are not mere religious rituals, they are gateways to mercy that can shape where you experience eternity. Christ disclosed to Saint Faustina that the sacrament of confession is the most immediate route to his mercy. He told her, "When you come to this fountain of my mercy, the blood and water that spring forth from my heart continuously flow upon your soul and elevate it." But here's what should profoundly move you. Street Fina came to understand that countless souls miss out on salvation simply because they refuse to humbly and sorrowfully admit their sins. Their pride prevents them from accessing the very sacrament that could save them. When was the last time you made a sincere confession? Are there sins you've been concealing from God due to shame or pride? Street Fina discovered that the Eucharist serves as the ultimate source of strength for the soul's journey towards eternity. She remarked, "The goodness within me is all due to Holy Communion. I owe everything to it. I truly feel this sacred fire has completely transformed me." However, Christ also revealed to her how many souls receive communion in an unworthy manner, lacking proper preparation or reverence. He told her, "The grief I feel from those who receive me unworthily surpasses the pain caused by those who commit the gravest sins. This should lead you to examine your heart before every Mass. Are you welcoming Jesus with the love and respect he rightfully deserves?" What Street Fina learned that should change your perspective is that the sacraments aren't merely personal advantages. They impact the entire mystical body of Christ. By receiving the sacraments worthily, you not only cleanse your own soul, but you also extend grace to the entire Church, including the souls in purgatory. When you receive them unworthily or disregard them altogether, you not only damage your own soul, but you also withhold the mystical body from the graces it desperately needs. Can you recognize how your sacramental life influences not only your own eternal fate, but also the everlasting well-being of many other souls? The most profound insight Street Fina received about the sacraments was their link to the moment of death. Christ made it clear that souls who have embraced a sacramental life, frequently confessing and receiving communion with devotion, approach death with assurance because they have nurtured a relationship with divine mercy throughout their routine, earthly existence. In contrast, those who have shunned the sacraments confront death with dread since they lack the familiarity with the mercy they urgently require. The sacraments are akin to a bridge that you construct throughout your life to safely cross into eternity. Are you building that bridge with each confession and communion, or are you waiting until the very last moment when it may be too late? How would your life transform if you genuinely believed that every action you take today carries eternal significance? Street Fina possessed such a sharp awareness of eternity that each moment evolved into a chance to either accumulate or forfeit grace. Her mystical insights into heaven, purgatory, and hell were not merely memories. They were realities that influenced every choice, every word, and every thought. Are you prepared to learn how to live with an identical eternal viewpoint? Street Fina discovered that the secret to keeping eternity in mind is cultivating what she referred to as continuous prayer. This doesn't necessarily mean reciting prayers all the time, but rather being cognizant of God's presence and mercy during every activity. She learned that even simple tasks could morph into acts of love that earn eternal rewards. Whether you're washing dishes, working at your job, or dealing with challenging individuals, you can dedicate these moments to God as prayers for souls. Street Fina recognized how these small daily offerings could genuinely rescue souls from purgatory and even avert souls from entering hell. What should reshape your daily routine is Street Fina's insight into the profound impact of suffering offered with love. Christ revealed to her that voluntary sacrifices and patient acceptance of involuntary sufferings could yield immense graces for the salvation of souls. Every headache you present to God, every moment of tiredness you unite with Christ's passion, and every disappointment you embrace with faith becomes a prayer that resonates throughout eternity. Street Fina discovered that souls in heaven were continuously expressing gratitude to God for individuals on earth whose concealed sufferings had contributed to their salvation. The most practical way Street Fina learned to live with an eternal perspective was through the practice of the 3 o'clock prayer. Christ instructed her, "At 3 o'clock seek my mercy, particularly for sinners, and if just for a fleeting moment, immerse yourself in my passion, especially in my abandonment, during the moment of agony." This daily ritual connected her to the precise moment when Christ secured mercy for all souls. By pausing at 3 p.m. each day to pray for souls, you are engaging in the very mission of salvation. Are you willing to set an alarm to remind yourself to pray at this sacred hour? Yet perhaps the most significant change that comes from having an eternal perspective is how it impacts your relationships with others. Street Fina viewed every individual she encountered as a soul destined for either everlasting glory or eternal loss. This understanding compelled her to treat everyone with profound compassion and a sense of urgency. She couldn't afford to be indifferent toward anyone, fully aware that their eternal fate rested in the balance. Can you picture how different your interactions could be if you genuinely recognized each person as someone whose soul you might aid in saving or losing? Every kind action transforms into a chance to showcase God's mercy. Every harsh remark turns into a potential barrier to someone's salvation. Living with eternity in sight means every moment holds significance, and every person matters. We've arrived at the ultimate moment of truth. This is when everything we've explored together about the everlasting fate of souls becomes personal for you. Street Fina's insights weren't merely shared to enlighten us on the afterlife. They were meant to guide us in making the right decisions while we still have the time at hand. At this very instant you are crafting your eternal future. The question igniting in your heart should be, what decision are you making? Before you are the same three paths that Saint Faustina perceived in her visions. One path leads to heaven, designated for souls who place complete trust in divine mercy and exhibit that trust through loving God and their neighbors. Another path entails purgatory for souls who pass away in God's grace but still require purification from their attachments to sin. And then there's the route to hell chosen by souls who ultimately deny God's mercy and prefer their own will over His love. Which path are you treading at this moment? More importantly, which path do you choose to walk from now on? The beautiful truth that Saint Faustina discovered is that it's never too late to redirect your path while you're still living. Christ reassured her, even if a soul were akin to a decomposing body and humanly speaking there was no hope for restoration, nothing would be lost. The miracle of divine mercy can fully restore that soul. Regardless of the sins weighing on your conscience, regardless of how distant you feel from God, and regardless of how many times you have stumbled, divine mercy remains accessible to you. However, and this is vital, mercy must be actively chosen. It must be trusted. It must be accepted with humility and love. Are you prepared to make that choice? What ought to fill you with both urgency and hope is Saint Faustina's insight that God wishes to save every soul. She learned that Christ endures more suffering from the souls that are lost than those souls endure in hell. His love for them is everlasting even when they reject Him eternally. This signifies that God is hopeful right now, wishing for you to opt for mercy. He is not poised to condemn you. He is waiting to envelop you in His embrace. Each heartbeat offers another chance to return to Him. Every breath you take is another precious moment to choose salvation. However, time is not infinite. The moment of death will arrive when your eternal destiny is determined forever. The choice laid before you is simple yet profound. Will you place your trust in Jesus, as Saint Faustina did? Will you greet each day with the prayer, "Jesus, I trust in you," not merely spoken, but acted upon? Will you accept the sacraments as gateways to mercy? Will you pray for souls still fighting on earth and those being refined in purgatory? Will you live with eternity in your sights, recognizing every moment as a chance to choose heaven? Or will you continue to live as though this life is all that exists? As if your decisions don't have eternal consequences, as if you can postpone the choice for mercy until an uncertain future day. The souls Saint Faustina witnessed in hell all thought they had additional time. They all believed they could select mercy later. However, that later never arrived. Now their choice is eternally fixed. Don't let that be your story. Choose mercy now. Choose trust now. Choose Jesus now. Your